Good afternoon to everyone. I'm excited to be here. I am going to be talking today about what is play therapy, and I'm Sabra Starnes. I'm a clinical social worker. I'm licensed in Maryland, DC, and Virginia. And one of the things I love doing is doing play therapy with clients. So a little bit about me. I did my second year placement. I went to Catholic University for my social work master's program, and my second year placement was at Villa Maria, which is in Towson, Maryland. It's probably about maybe 45 minutes from like the College Park area. It is now uh, St. Vincent's, but it is an inpatient facility for children 5 to 12 years old. They may have expanded their ages, but while I was there, that was their ages. And my supervisor was a play therapist, and I got to learn and understand about that within the room, the dolls, the doll house, the puppets, the paint had all this different meaning than just a space for kids to come in and play. And that really understanding the power of play therapy has changed the way I work as a clinician. It's given me a way that really, when I was in grad school, learning about different theories, I thought, I want to find something that's going to be hands on, interactive play that really is going to one meet my personal and professional style. And play therapy has done that. It's allowed me to continue the joy of playing while helping clients heal, and which has been, I think, when we want to able to offer clients different ways that they can interact in the session. Where now, when I can't even imagine working with even a 3-year old or a family or an adult doing in the session and not doing anything but talking. That just I can't even imagine that how that would work anymore. That just seems so foreign to me. Not that it can't, but for me, I'm just like I couldn't do it. I need to have some ways of helping my clients use something that's tactile. Really, when we think about each person's sensory, that we all are learning styles, that we are learning, we're different learners. We need to offer clients ways that are auditory, visual, kinesthetic, that really get clients to be able to engage in ways that's important to them. So when we think of the definition of play therapy, I'm gonna open my presenter view for just a moment so I can give you the term. So, the definition of play therapy, it's the systematic use of a theoretical model to establish interpersonal process wherein trained play therapists use the therapeutic powers of play to help clients prevent or resolve psychological difficulties and achieve optimal growth and development. And that's a definition that comes from the Association for Play Therapy. The Association for Play Therapy was founded in 1990 by Dr. Charles Schaefer and Kevin O'Connor. Dr. Charles Schaefer had passed away in 2020. He has brought so much to the world of play therapy as far as um, books that he's written, games that he's created. But one of the things that he's created this association, which is the Association for Play Therapy. It's a national, international association that Dr. Schaefer and Dr. Kevin O'Connor at the time were wanting to figure out where can we find a space where clinicians who wanted to use sand tray, art, play, um, music, dance, all these different approaches, and have a space that really met their needs, that would offer a conference, a place to do professional writing journals, evidence-based place to be considered an evidence-based practice. So they founded the Association for Play Therapy with the thought understanding of wanting to have a space that really could give clinicians a place to connect. And so where we fast forward to where we are now, probably over, I think I last looked, there may be 600,000 play therapists around the world. And in most states, you have an association, you have a chapter. So in the Maryland, DC, Virginia area, we have a chapter that is for those who are in Maryland and DC. And then there's a chapter that's in Virginia, that so that you can become a member on the national level, and then you become a member on a local level. And what's amazing about play therapy, and why I'm really excited to get to talk to you guys today as grad students, is that you can begin your process to become a registered play therapist now. Any workshop training that you take will count towards your credentialing to become a registered play therapist. And with that, you are going to then be able to have a, if it's something that you're wanting to really become as a it's not a certification, it's a credential where you though are able to put behind your name that you are someone who's taken courses and really learned about how to work with clients using toys, puppets, art. And often when I get the question I get the most is, so when someone has maybe someone I've had supervisees or people who've just come into my office and they're like, this looks like a daycare. This looks like, this looks like my kids' room. What's going on here? Actually, I say often parents will say, "Wait a minute, this looks like their room. How is this going to work? I need them to work on their issues. How is this gonna help?" And it is this power of play therapy. It's the therapeutic powers of play, and I'll share a video about that in a little bit. But it's a way of helping clients to not have to use their words, and most importantly, it's helping you as a clinician meet the needs and get to the developmental stages of your clients versus your clients coming to your traditional, your developmental space. And I think I'm a fan of all different modalities, but I think one, when we can have clients, often may need something that really speaks to, for especially when we're talking about children and we talk about our clients, and you want to be able to really be thoughtful about what you're bringing to work with clients. So we're going to listen to a short video of Dr. Charles Schaefer talking a little bit about the history of play therapy. I'm going to make sure that my share button, yep, it's on. Okay.
You and Kevin O'Connor formed the Association for Play Therapy in 1982. Compare and contrast your vision and motivation then with the organization today.
Play therapy in the early 1900s was the most popular form of child psychotherapy. Started in England with the psychodynamic play therapists. It thrived in the 1920s and 30s, and then in the States in the 1960s. Humanistic play therapy came into vogue thanks to the work of Virginia Axline, and it was the predominant form of psychotherapy in the States through the 60s. And then in the 70s, other forms of child therapy came into vogue, like cognitive behavioral, and play therapy fell into disfavor. So that in 1980, it was practically on life support. So Kevin and I, being big believers and passionate about play therapy, thought maybe we could do something about that to bring life back into the field. So we thought we'd write a book or two and then maybe see if we could form an association for play therapy. Our goals were quite limited since we had no funds, we had no staff, just the two of us. So all we could offer was a newsletter. Kevin was the editor of the newsletter initially, and an annual conference, which I ran for the first 3 years in New York. And our goals were to establish a national forum where people could come for exchange of information, for training, and for social support. Social support, I mean, call it a clan, call it a tribe, call it a family, call it an association. We all need to belong to something bigger than ourselves. So, and at that time had been no training going on to speak of in play therapy. There were no books being published on play therapy.
So I'm glad that it brought that up because so the year I said 1990, but 1982, and when I think around that time in the 1980s, and this is just what from my look, kind of researching and looking about kind of what was going on that may have caused for this kind of a change in when it came to working with children. A lot of at the time, a lot of daycares were kind of coming under fire for children. They're just not every daycare, of course, but there was became more. It was coming out that there was some daycares that were not providing the best service to children. Even some children were experiencing some abuse, and so that it kind of got to a point where clinicians, I think, got to the point where feeling like, I'm not sure if I want to work with a child in the room without a parent. I'm worried about someone making an allegation. So that really, when Dr. Connor and Charles Schaefer came about and said, look, this is a way we need to work with children. We need to do it in a way that's thoughtful, a way that's engaging, and a way that's appropriate, and with licensed, trained clinicians who are not just in the room watching a child play or giving them something to do, but instead being very thoughtful and intentional in what they're asking clients to do. So I have a question. It's going to come up in a couple slides to the answer to this. In the chat box, if you could put what ages do you think play therapy is for? So you could say 2 to 5, 8 to 10, 12 to 15, whatever number you think, number range that you think play therapy would be great for. Put that in the chat box, and I'm going to pull that up. So play it's a basic skill that helps children's knowledge grow. And thinking about when we think about children and their knowledge, especially if you are thinking of a toddler, ages 2 to 5, that is a area where children are beginning to learn their language. This is at an age where children have been using a lot of in their implicit memory, so they've not been doing more nonverbal. And this is a place where you're able to engage with a child at that age in their world of play, and that's their world. So you're entering into their world, and by entering it into their world as a clinician, you're following their lead. So it looks very let's say a therapist who maybe doesn't have, or they're sitting on the couch or on a chair taking notes, asking questions. This is really no, you're putting all that to the side, and what I call is a down on the floor, roll around, be okay getting dirty, getting sand in your hair, getting paint on your clothes. You have to be willing, to have that comfort level of being able to work with a client who is at 2 to 5. And then if you look at the school age, 5 to 10, that's a great age where clients may be more asking more questions, but they're using their imagination. Not that at 2 to 5 they're using their imagination. I think imagination is always going on when you're using and doing a play therapy session. So you're helping clients around understanding their knowledge about themselves, their world, their community. They're learning and increasing their emotional literacy. So within a session, it maybe it's 30 minutes, it might be 45 minutes. There's a lot that a client may be going on. And by that, a lot that they're showing you, and a client who is showing you about maybe missing their friends, you're getting an opportunity to view into the window of their life. And then by that, it also challenges you and has you as a clinician to not ask a lot of questions. One of the things as a therapist is you being real learning that we like to ask, we ask questions. We want to know, but this gives you a chance to be more silent, be more reflective, and to observe more than ask more. And so play, it's a natural part of everyone's life. This play is part of our overall well-being. We all need play in different forms and different ways. And it's so important so that it doesn't ever, regardless how old we are, we still need to know how to play. And then it gives it play as a chance to make believe. And I think this has been one of the things I love about doing play therapy is getting to be even virtually and in person throughout a day. I might be a dragon. I might be going on an airplane ride. I might be in a spaceship. I might be getting to be floating on a magic carpet. I get to go so many different places with my clients during the day that, by the end of the day, I've had a really full day of different things. So it's every day. It's different. I have some clients who might replay out a scene or something in chef sessions, but most days it's going to be pretty much. I'm gonna I buckle up and I'm ready to go where my clients go, which is a lot of fun. So my next looking at what play is not, and it's important to know that it's not a waste of time. And it's important that as when you're working with families, because when you work with clients and your children 3 to 18, you're also working with the family to do individual therapy without incorporating the family either in family sessions and check-ins. It really is not that it's not going to be effective. Why? Because you need to have the input of the family. You need to have part of they're part of helping with the solution. They might be part of the problem, but they're also there to be part of the support. As a clinician, we're only seeing our clients once a week, so we really need to get the engagement of family that may be caregivers, that may be an aunt, that may be an uncle, but someone else that client has a relationship with. And so helping families to really see that it's not a waste of time. And when I have families who are a little bit skeptical or like not sure or like, is this going to work? Is this going to help? I bring them into the session. So I do a lot of my work is family work. I do individual, but when I do individual, I make sure I get in a family's not sure what are we doing here. I bring them into session and we do a family play therapy session. And so there's a technique, it's called filial play therapy, where you are having the family, the caregivers, the adults in the room learn how to be the therapist in the room. And so you're helping them to be reflective. You're helping them to be imaginative. I had a session once where a dad came in. He had a cell phone in his hand, suit and tie. By the end of the session, his jacket was on the floor, his phone, I don't think didn't even know where it was. He was so engaged in the play with his children. He was like, this is great. And, where before he came a little bit like, I don't know. I don't know if this is going to work. So that's always fun when I can get parents to become believers in this work. And that it's not a babyish activity, so that you're using a variety of different tools, and those tools may be different things that you have in your space: art supplies, play toys, food, books, bibliotherapy, music. So you're going to meet in being able to help clients find a way that's going to meet their needs. And with play therapy, there's a lot of different theories. So you incorporate play therapy with cognitive behavior therapy. You can use play therapy and EMDR, which is eye movement realization, eye movement well, they did intervention, and I always get that one. I'm trained in it. I should, so it's EMDR, which is where you're helping a client use brain work. They're helping them to process maybe a trauma, something that's difficult. You can incorporate that into play therapy. So really, it's approach that you can use, which is called a prescriptive play therapy, where you're using tools that's going to meet the needs of your client. So as a therapist, you're going to be kind of eclectic, meaning you're going to know variety. You have a lot of different things in your toolbox that you can use with a variety of different clients, because every client will not want to just do a sand tray or just do art. So you want to have your space available where clients can do a variety of different things. And then it's something done with only toys. So it's not your playroom is going when you create your playroom either virtually or in person, it becomes something that doesn't have to have everything, but you want to have a variety of different things. And it's not just going to be toys, but it's going to be in your space. And then it's something to do when there's nothing important to do. So that children and clients that are coming, and I think when I say children, I'm going to share a little bit what I mean by children, that I'm not just talking about a specific age, that it's really offering them, there's something going on. There's healing, there's growth, there's you're not just it's not just a wasting time and sitting there, but what's important is that the clinician needs to be trained. Otherwise it could look like we're wasting time and not much is being accomplished. So we're going to take a look at this video. It was created by the Association for Play Therapy, a little bit about why play therapy is important to use with clients. Make sure that the sound is on. Yep.
Hey Andrew, how was school today? Well, it was a very frustrating day. Tommy was teasing me about my haircut, and that was embarrassing. As a way of coping with my embarrassment, I became angry. I'm ashamed to admit it, dear mother, but I could not resist striking Tommy with my fist. While this act of emotional release did offer a moment's respite from my embarrassment, the victory was short-lived. The next thing I knew, Tommy had immobilized me with a headlock and gave me what is referred to colloquially as a swirly.
This isn't how kids communicate, but they do communicate in other ways. Play is a child's first language. When a child plays, they express thoughts and feelings that would otherwise remain hidden. That's why play therapy can be a powerful tool for addressing a child's cognitive, behavioral, and emotional challenges. Licensed mental health practitioners use play therapy to help children process their experiences and develop more effective strategies for managing their world. To learn more about play therapy and registered play therapists, visit a4pt.org.
Oh. I really just need a chocolate milk on the rocks and a long soak in the tub.
So before we move on, I'm going to stop the video and just check to see if anyone has any questions. One question about play therapy. It could be what about what I do. If you have a question about what you've heard something, read something about play therapy.
I have a very vague question. Do you feel like you probably can't draw this conclusion, but do you feel like with other therapies that it takes a little longer to get to things with play therapy, or do you think it's even okay? Go ahead.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I want to just have you finish off there. I think that's
Well, or do you think that with certain children, it's a quicker way to the source of whatever's going on?
yes, definitely. I would say because you're helping a client, you're thinking about where they are developmentally and giving them a chance to not have to. Because oftentimes when you ask any of us, if I was to ask you a question, you're like, you really don't, you're like, I don't know, or shrug your shoulders. There is that thought that the person's maybe like, I don't want to tell or doesn't know. But often for a lot of times children, teens, they don't know. They're not, that shrugging of the shoulders or I don't know is really because they're not able to, they haven't been able to verbally kind of put whatever, maybe it's around something traumatic. Maybe it's about something sad and they don't have the words for it yet, but they can draw it. They can sing it. They can role play it. They can pretend it because it's allowing them to come outside of their words, because words, I think words are important, but oftentimes we often need to use other ways to get to then being able to explain. So what I have found is when children get that opportunity and they can be able to say, oh, I'm not having somebody who's going to ask me the why, the what, the when and where, but instead what you're asking is show me, do it in your way. And when children often don't have, and when I say children, I'm really speaking about 3 to 18, they don't have a lot of choice. They don't have a choice of what's for dinner, where they're going to school, what they're, they might get to choose what they're wearing, but this space of being in the play therapy room gives clients an opportunity that's very unique to their world. Is they get a chance to be in charge of their decision making in a way that's safe, that's way that's helpful. And so the minute that a client walks into the playroom virtually or in person, it's a special place. It's a place where clients get to decide what they want to play with, touch anything in the room as far as the toys and the play. They get to make those decisions with the guidance of a clinician who's going to set appropriate boundaries. For example, a client who wants to throw the ball at you repeatedly, we're not going to have, you would say, no, we can't do that. Can't throw the ball at me, but you can throw the ball at the floor or at the pillow, or, so you find other ways to help clients in to express themselves in ways that are healthier and safer. And what you also in working with families is families are going to give you the update like, oh, I've noticed this week that Tommy was able to do his deep breathing, or was more calm, was able to be a little calmer when got upset. So parents are going to be your best way of finding out the progress. And also, but I've definitely seen clients come in with able to use this approach that get through things to be able to get to a little quicker, because you're giving them the ability to make some decision making. And so I think that, is really what's at the heart of being able to use this approach with a lot of different ways of using it. Thanks for that's a great question. So I'm going to take a look at the chat to see what numbers we got. And what people said. So I see 1 to 18, 2 to 12, 2 to 10. Great. So let me get my next slide. So play therapy can be used for everyone. From infants to 103. It's a technique and tool that you can use with all clients. With as clients get older, is your preteens, your teens, and adults, there's definitely going to be more talk involved, but you can incorporate sand tray, artwork, um, using creative techniques, expressive techniques for poetry, and so it can be something that's used throughout our life. And again, as I mentioned, play is such a critical part of our well-being, our ability to be happy and engaged. That really what's important is that how is a clinician presenting and opening and offering. So with adults, what would look like in a session with an adult is I might have I might have Play-Doh out. We may do a sand tray. I may ask them if they're telling me about something that happened this week, instead of them just telling me the story, I may have them draw it out. I may have them do a drawing or a collage. We might do role play, but again, or we might sit on the floor. But however, I'm going to put some aspect of engagement, attunement. So my theory of practice I use is attachment theory. So I'm always looking, regardless of what we're working on, I'm looking at the attachment of the other person. I'm looking at our attachment as our therapeutic relationship. But it then, it's so too, when you think of if you wherever your internship is going to be, think about, wow, if I'm working in a nursing home, what could I bring to use in a way that's going to bring play and engagement in a different way besides just talk. One of the things I would say out of challenges of doing play therapy is if you're working in a setting like a hospital or a nursing home or I've worked in some or well, it's not or a school, some area where it might be a little difficult to have seem like it might be difficult to have some actual like actual sand tray or toys or dolls. What I would say is, now that we've been doing this online, there's now ways that you can use some things. For example, there's a virtual sand tray. You can do virtual sand tray if you're not able to have an actual sand tray. So I was thinking of another challenge someone might have. If you're going into somebody's home and you're not able to take all these things with you, you now could take your laptop and do some activities while you incorporate in-person activities. And so in using it virtually, I tell people, don't let the screen limit you. Let the screen only be a way of you and the client interacting. You have a whole world, you have your client's home, you have your space. Use it. Be engaging in the way that you can. Have a client go do a scavenger hunt. Can you find 3 things that make you so happy? Ready, get set, go. And a client goes off and finds some things and then brings them back. And even though you're on screen, you can interact with them. So I pull my puppets out, I pull my miniatures out, and we're engaging, we're interacting. And I don't even remember that I'm on screen. I think I'm in the room with my client because I'm wanting to make sure that that connection is there. And then I hope that gives you it. Now you're able to leave with knowing, wow, this can be used for couples, families, individuals, groups. There's not a limit of how you use play therapy. And I've got a great question. It's got a question I'd like to read. Could you give an example of how you use a specific tool for play therapy? For example, how do you incorporate music? How has virtual setting been for you? And have you seen changes in your practice? So, an example of a tool would be using say a client is sharing with you about their day, and you would then get they could grab some puppets. You get a puppet, and the client begins to share and their story and what's happened, but now they're kind of taking it out of themselves, and they're talking in kind of maybe about what's happened, but in a more playful way, versus yesterday my friend told me they didn't like me. Where now we're maybe puppets, like, yesterday I don't like you. Why don't you like me? I want to be your friend because you called me a mean name. Oh, I didn't know. I thought I was just playing. So you're getting it. So as a clinician, you're jumping into the story, taking in what the client's sharing with you, taking in what you already know about the client. Because often clients you're going to begin to know about them, their family, their friends, their school. So things that they've maybe shared with you in other sessions and things come up, you can kind of check in, and I might even say, "Did I get that right?" And I might whisper in my own voice, "Did I get that right?" As we are doing a play interaction. So using puppets, and you can purchase puppets, but I love to create things with clients. So we've created puppets with a sock, with a plastic bag, with a paper bag. You know, there's one of the so many different ways that you can incorporate the activities that don't have to be store bought. I think clients need opportunities to be creative and create things and have their own. So one, it can look like them. It can be who they want it to be. And in this space, one of the things that a lot of clients have really making, when I do trainings and supervision, is I always ask clinicians who are doing play therapy to make sure your space is diverse. Having a variety of different things for clients, of different cultures, not ethnicities, values. You really want to make sure that you are letting the client be able to see themselves. But what's been great doing it virtually is clients get to bring their own things in. They get to bring their own toys, their own world into the play. And so how you could incorporate music is having a client could share a song. What's one of your favorite songs that you like to sing? And we would, and I might start humming as a way. If a child is maybe dysregulated, I might start to hum. I might start to rock, again, thinking about connection and engagement and attachment. I'm thinking, how else can I connect with my client without having to say, sit down, stop doing that, because that's not helping. I want to find a way that's going to be more engaging. So I'm thinking more of a way that's going to get at the rhythm of us connecting. So can you give me your eyes? I know you're upset. Can you give me those great eyes? And as I'm saying that, I'm look at, wow, can you hum with me? Can you put your hand? Can you follow my hand? So it's one of the things I will say too. It's very much off. At times you're going to find it's experiential. You'll have your session planned and ready to go, and something will happen in the session that you didn't know was going to happen, which often happens in therapy, and you just be willing to be flexible and really to go with that. And with that, the thing that's so important is that the art of the relationship. This is Gary Landreth, and I will be sending this handout to Jessica, so you'll have this. But Gary Landreth is another person in the world of play therapy that has just brought so much a wealth of information and trainings. And so he talks about the art of the relationship, and I'm all about the relationship with clients, regardless of where we are in treatment. If we've just started treatment, if we're at the middle or the end, is that relationship is the key. And I say we are the playroom, meaning that regardless of what is in the playroom, the toys, the dolls, the art, the sand tray, the games, all of that's great. But the most important thing in the room is the client and you and that relationship. If that relationship isn't fun and engaging, you could have every toy under the sun, and it really is not going to be as effective. That's when you're going to start to see, wow, is this working? I don't know if my client's changing, and kind of wondering if you're not, and that's where the coming it comes to be getting the training and the supervision that comes with becoming a registered play therapist. So with the art of the relationship, you're looking at that therapy happens within the context of the therapeutic relationship. It's that ability to engage with the client, to see the client for where they are, to be able to be playful, but to set boundaries. So if a client says, I want to sit on your lap, and you're thinking, "Oh my goodness, I want to be a good therapist. I don't want to say no." You set a boundary. You know what? You can't sit on my lap, but you can sit here right next to me. Or you could, we can sit across from each other. If it's virtual, when it's virtually, I like to do, I always like to have, let's put our hands up to the screen, or can you come in a little bit closer? I want to make sure that the ability for us to connect is going on. And then the therapist sets limits that do not tamper with the will of the child. And so that I very in I rarely say no in sessions. And that, unless the only time I'm saying no if a client is doing something that's going to be harmful to themselves or to me. And so I'll share. So, in personally, when a child takes a bucket of Legos, dumps them over, and then goes over to another area and takes all the books and dumps them over. Inside, I'm like, oh God, I gotta clean this up. I'm frustrated, but on the outside, I'm like, you know what? This is part of how it goes. This is what the playroom needs to feel like, a space that clients can do what they want to do, that's safe. So if a client says, I'm going to break this toy, then I'm like, no, we can't break toys in the playroom because we want them to be here for other friends. But you know what? Let's get some Play Doh and let's break that. Or let's go rip up. Which one would you want to do? So I'm wanting to find ways I can still let a client express themselves, but also if there's a need for me to say no, I'm going to say no, for definitely for safety. I'm not going to let clients, jump off off the couch and do all kinds of things. You got to keep a boundary because you're the adult in the room. You have to, and that's important too. To be a friendly play therapist doesn't mean you're becoming that client's friend. You're still in the role of a clinician. You still are there, and we've got and to do the work. And then the therapist enacts personal limits. Again, as I mentioned, having your own personal limits and boundaries. Some clients may have issues around spatial issues or issues around touch and may want to touch your hair, take your glasses off, touch you on areas that you just are the inappropriate areas that you just, again, you set boundaries and you say no. If a client says, I want a hug, and you're not feeling you want maybe a hug, but let's do a high five, or let's do our handshake that we made last week. So you want to find ways to keep engaged with the client instead of kind of saying no. And then the therapist uses him or herself in therapy. And by that, you're using yourself in play. By that, you're not sitting down, you're not in the corner taking notes. You're right in there in the engagement with the child. Unless the child is doing solo play. If the child's playing alone and has not invited you into the play, you're there watching. You're being reflective. You're no, oh wow, you look really like you're feeling really excited. Wow, look at you. So and they're not doing that continually, but and that's a skill of learning how to do tracking and being reflective, but you're not ever just kind of sitting by the side, or just often wandering into thinking about your grocery list. You're really in tuned and engaged, and mindful throughout a session. And the response to aggressive behaviors, that often is one that can be challenging, but again, you set limits. When clients become physically aggressive or are breaking things and you've given them limits, you've given them options and choices, I bring parents in. There's some clients where when I was meeting in person, that I keep a door open. I keep the door open so in case we had a signal, and I like to come up with my signal words, like it was banana. Like I might say, "Oh, banana," and grandma knew to come on in and check what was going on, because I'm the therapist. I'm not there to be, the parent, and I'm there to set limits. And when things limits are gotten to a point where I can't set them, I need families involved. That's why therapy is not parents just dropping their child off and going shopping and coming back. They're staying there because either they're going to be in the session, you're going to have them be part of the session at the end, or you're engaging them in some way, but also you don't want to leave yourself to having a child with you or client with you and parents are not there. You want to have make sure that they're, and then children have within themselves the ability to control their behavior and want to. And that often is not going to always be easy for children to regulate their emotions or themselves physically. They're going to need some support around that. They're going to find some ways. So, using grounding activities, deep breathing, there's meditation, using yoga, and these are all things, again, you may not be a yogi, but you could incorporate that into sessions by using, knowing, again, taking, knowing what you're doing. I wouldn't say just all of a sudden, okay, I'm going to do a yoga in this session and not know what your a yoga pose. You want to have yoga cards, or have taken, taken some skills around that. But I love where with the beauty of play therapy is you can always be creative as you want as a play therapist. There's not just a one way to be a play therapist. And as I shared, we are the play therapy. So this is two pictures of my play therapy room. And you'll see there's a variety of different things in my room. I have toys. I have area for doll houses, Legos. I have board games. And then just there's a space that's not showing my paint area, so it's just got a variety of different things in it, and spaces for kids to kind of interact. um, and then I have a talk room where there's no toys, and I might, if we work with a family, I might bring the toys in. We might select some toys to bring in. So Dr. Charles Schaefer's and Andrea Drews talked about, as play therapists, we carry the essential heart and soul of play therapy within each of us, leveraging the child's resiliency and the play therapy relationship as therapeutic powers of play. So the therapeutic powers of play, which I'm going to show you a little bit, is so you'll have this in your handout. So what can play therapy achieve? And it goes through the different things that it can achieve. I'm going to go through maybe just a few for time. One, it can help the therapist to understand children and their interactions and relationships. And then it can provide an environment to test limits and gain insight about their behavior. And then there's several goals of play therapy. You'll also have this as a handout to come back to. A couple, I'll go through a few. One, to facilitate learning about self and others, encourage ability to make good decisions, and to learn and practice problem solving and relationship skills. So within a session, you may or may not see all of these things happening, and you might have a treatment plan, you might have separate goals. These are some things that you are kind of working on and helping clients at various different stages of treatment. So it's not every session might this be happening, and how you'll know this is happening is really how you're really about observing what you're seeing, what you're noticing, more so than giving a client a directive of, okay, we're going to work on good decision making. Instead, when a child was getting ready to jump off a couch, and you're like, nope, we can't jump off the couch, but you know what we can do? We can jump on the bean bags, and the child stepped off. Good decision making was happening. So it's happening throughout various different stages in a session and times during a session. So, great qualities of an effective play therapist: has deep empathy and able to really have an understanding of child development, understanding that a child's developmental stage may be very different than their emotional stage. They may be development may be 10, but emotionally they may be 5, just based on their life experiences or things that have happened. And so being able to have a deep empathy is a deep understanding versus being sympathetic. We're empathy, we're helping, we want to figure out how can we help a client to empower them, to encourage them, to give them the ability to express themselves in ways that they need to, that helps them to then change things within their world. Positive regard, that you have a positive regard for your client, willing to say, I see this child, and even though if it's a child that maybe is always angry or doesn't like coming to therapy, you're still able to say, here's the strengths, here's the positives I see in this client, and I'm going to keep engaging that client in a way that I can help them, because that's my, our role and our job. Genuineness, clients know real when we're being honest. Clients know when we're being sincere. They don't, and they may not always say it, but we want to make sure we're using genuineness. That even when being imaginative or role playing or pretending, that you want to be genuine in your response. For example, a client who says, I hate you and I never want to come back to the therapy again. Wow, I can see you're really feeling angry right now. Instead of, being maybe sarcastic, oh, really? Or, you want to be able to just know, be honest with your response, and still stay professional, but not feel like you have to, kind of, again, you're always within doing this work. You're always kind of thinking, how do I want to respond to this? And again, sometimes not everything needs a response. And then willingness and openness, to learning and trying new things as a clinician. Ability to, when a client says, I don't want to play that game, or I don't want to do this activity, that you're able to say, okay, and kind of move along with it, not take it like, oh, that session was a failure. Instead, you allow the client to make some decisions. And then understanding of the stages of development, and really understanding the stages of development, knowing family systems, really knowing different ways of engaging your clients is important. And I mentioned this one earlier. Comfort in getting down and dirty, being able to get on the ground, to be able to, jump, be able to engage in pretend play, imagination play, dress up. And if a client asks you, I want you to do 50 jumping jacks, and you're like, I don't know if I can do 50. And you're thinking, I could do maybe 10. That's again genuineness. I can do 10. I can't do 50. Instead of like, okay, I'll do 50, and you exert yourself. That's again, wanting to please our clients doesn't mean we have to do it at a detriment to our what we can do and what we need to do. Another example of clients of setting limits is being genuine and being honest. Clients, are going to need that structure. And then getting training and supervision in various modalities. So as a play therapist, I'm trained in, as I mentioned, EMDR, brain spotting. I'm trained in CBT, attachment based therapies. God, just meditation, yoga, you name it. I've just got a variety of things in my toolbox that just kind of have kept, over the years. I'm a life learner. I enjoy going to different trainings, reading about different books, just to keep me engaged and kind of giving me different new things to learn. And then becoming a registered play therapist is something, I think out of all of the certifications and even my license, I would say is the best thing. I love being, having to be able to say, I've got the experience and training to back up what I'm doing, because also I have families will ask, well, how do you know what you're doing? Where are you trained in this? I've had families say, I went to the Association for Play Therapy and I saw that you are listed as a registered play therapist supervisor. So it's important to, if you say you're doing this work, and if you are not a registered play therapist, you can say, I'm using play therapy techniques, or this is a play therapy invention. But to say I'm a registered play therapist really holds the credibility that you've done the work and put the time in to become a registered play therapist. And so you can go to the Association for Play Therapy and you can find out all the requirements to become a registered play therapist, all the training and the supervision that's required. But what's really exciting is something you could start now. You don't have to get it done in a certain amount of time. Any training or webinar that you take that's from a registered play therapist provider is good for 7 years. So you hold on to those trainings and keep those with those. And I've kind of talked today about the importance, well, I have talked a lot about today, the importance of the toys and having a variety of different toys in your room and things that you have. And again, when I first started, I thought, oh my gosh, I have to have every toy imaginable. So I was going through trainings and I was doing supervision with just amazing, amazing play therapists that were and are in this area. And I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, I want my room to look like that. But I'll say this, it takes time. As you slowly begin, you build as we, there's no rush. You don't have to have everything, because the best thing is your clients don't know that, oh, you need to have a puppets in here and you need to have, they don't know. They're going to use what you have and what you bring into the space. But again, be creative. I think that's the key. And then and I wanted to share with you So the therapeutic powers of play. This is our mantra, our tenet. This is our way of being in the playroom, that as clinicians, we provide this as our training and our skills. We are offering these different ways for clients to learn. So we're going to have you listen to this short video, and then I'll see if we have any last video questions. Oops, I just was checking to make sure this volume is so. Just share a little bit about what I also do. So I'm an approved provider with the Association for Play Therapy, which means any webinars or trainings that you take with me count towards your those becoming a registered play therapist hours that you have to occur, and over time you have to have 150 training hours. And so I never forget what it's like to be a graduate student. I always remember. So for April, I have several webinars coming up. And for those of you who are with me today, I'd like to give you 50% 20% off on attending a webinar. You can attend as many as you'd like. All you need to do is just send me a message. You can go to my website, saberstarnes.com, and I'll put that in the chat, where if you're interested in attending a webinar, I'd love to have you. And then myself and three other clinicians of color, 2 years ago, we created our first book. It's the Increasing Your Play Therapy Toolbox. It's a book of 46 activities that you can use with clients ages 3 to 103. And what we wanted to do that was really important in focusing these activities that focus on feelings, expression, social skills, self-esteem, and termination activities is there are ones that you can make. So they're not, and they're very simplistic. There doesn't require a lot of bells and whistles, but we wanted it to be where a clinician could create these activities with their client without having I'm always about being on a budget and thinking thoughtful about clinicians' budgets and our clients' budgets, so that they can create some really fun, engaging activities. And this is also on my website, you can go to. So it's been amazing being with everyone. I'm going to put my website so that you can have that, and further to check out, staying connected with me. Looks like we have a moment or two. If you'd like to, anybody has a quick question before we end.
Hi, I have a question. I've heard from a couple other grad students who are working with kids in play therapy, where they kind of feel like it's mostly them playing instead of actually having the clinical value. So I was just wondering if there are kind of like common things that you see, especially with clinicians who are kind of starting out in this. There are things that like might be overlooked or just like not seen as maybe like having that clinical value, you know?
So definitely, I would say what's going to be important is the supervision. And with if the supervisor is a play therapist, because it does look like just play to an untrained eye, but there's things going on, there's things happening within the session. But it's very common when you're starting something new to kind of not wonder, does this look right? And so when you're able to bring it to supervision, when you're able to bring it to talk about, here's what happened in the session today, and your supervisor can say, oh, did you notice this, or how did you respond, or did you not respond? So that's a common thing of wondering, is something happening? And I will say often there is. It just really it's just the need of the clinician to be trained and skilled.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we do one more, and I'll yes.
Question.
Yes.
Yeah, hi. This is awesome. Thank you. My question is, do you find it helpful in diagnostics? Like in really trying to understand, what's going on?
Oh, I'm always assessing from the moment a client walks into, or a family comes into my office, to the end. And I'm doing that just really observing. I'm noticing body language, interaction, what looks different from the beginning of session to the end. So I'm always using this as a way of assessing. And so not as a real formal tool. There are, you would use your other formal diagnostic tools, but I use this as an informal, ongoing tool to assess.
Great, thanks.
Great. Well, wonderful. Well, you guys have a wonderful rest of your school year.